So the FBI puts together a 39-person team for the DeCavalcantes.
Right. So what we do is we proactively run Ralph for about 2 years. During those 2 years, he makes approximately 300 consensual recordings. We have a dedicated surveillance team on him from SO2, led by the team leader is Joseph Sconzo. And we have probably 1,000 surveillance logs. And then that leads to the first set of indictments in December of 1999, where we arrest 39 people. And as a new agent, you're hoping to be on an arrest team. Because I had worked so hard and did a lot of the admin work, which you're supposed to do as a new agent, I get tasked with arresting a violent DeCavalcante soldier named Anthony Capo. So that's how I start to get even more involved in the case. Is I'm going to be the team leader to arrest Anthony Capo in December of 1999.
Okay, and Anthony Capo is tied to stock fraud and murders.
Right, so he is initially charged with the conspiracy to murder Charlie Majuri, and he's initially charged with mail fraud. So those are the two charges that he's initially charged with. So I'm the team leader. I'm responsible for arresting him that day. So watching George operate Ralph for those 2 years, I see he operates him with respect. So even though Anthony Capo is a violent person, hated by law enforcement from all the stories that I heard, I decide I'm going to treat him with respect, and I'm going to learn everything about him before that arrest. I want to know everything about his previous life, everything about his family life, everything about him. And that's what I actually do.
Right. Now, Anthony Capo is a made man, and he's a lifelong Mafia loyalist. And this particular crew had never turned. The DeCavalcantes never snitched. So it was a big shock when you actually got him to turn.
Right. As a new agent, I didn't even know that up until that time period in the family's 100-year history that no made member in that particular family had cooperated with law enforcement before. I didn't even know that as a new agent. So when I went to go arrest him that day, the first problem that we had was he wasn't at his house. So when I went to go arrest him, he wasn't there. His wife told me that he was at his mom's house. So as I said, I'm hearing stories that he's this violent person, hated by law enforcement. All interactions with law enforcement have been extremely hostile. When I went to his mom's house, I didn't see that. I seen almost like a loving relationship that he had with his family. So we arrest him. The first thing that happens is he comes out. When we get him dressed, he's wearing a Dallas Cowboy jacket. Personally speaking, I'm a Steeler fan. So I hate the Cowboys, right? So that's the first set of banter that we actually have. Second of all, I get him in the car, and I know, based upon my history, that I did my homework. As I said, I studied him. He was a diabetic. So I made sure that I had orange juice and chocolate just in case his blood sugar went low. He saw that, so he saw that I was going to treat him like a human being, right? So I showed him respect. Then I read him his rights, and I wanted him basically to invoke his right to counsel, which he did. Now, when you read people their Miranda rights and they invoke their right to counsel or to remain silent, you can no longer ask them questions. But that doesn't prevent me from giving him statements. So that's when the mind chess started. So I started to give him statements. Now you got to put yourself in his shoes. It's 6 o'clock in the morning. He doesn't know who our witness is. He doesn't know what I know. So the first thing I did is before I even got to that, I would ask him the pedigree information, like what's his date of birth, his kids' names, his wife, his cell number, where they live, blah, blah, blah. Before he could even answer my questions, I would give him the answer. What I was doing was I wanted him to know that I knew a lot more about him than he thought I did. So that was the first thing I did. Then after he invoked his right to counsel, what I did was related to Charlie Majuri. I told him, don't say anything because you invoked your right to counsel, just listen to me. And then I said, your plan related to Charlie Majuri was you wanted to ring his doorbell and shoot him in the face. The reason that you didn't do that was because there was a cop on the block. And then I said, don't say anything, just think about that. Now, what I just did was gave him food for thought, because I knew that was fact because we had it on a consensual recording. So again, put yourself in his shoes. 6 o'clock in the morning, this is a fact because you know if you lie to these guys, you're done. Then the second thing was related to mail fraud. Remember back in the day, you could rent a suite and people would think you had this big, like an office within a big building. Well, that's what these guys, they rented a mailbox suite and they were just trying to convince potential customers to give them money. So I just said to him, I said, that was really cute that you did that. Again, giving him food for thought. Then I would talk to the driver just to make conversation, just letting him think about things. And these are all facts. So then as the day went by, he hadn't been arrested in a while, so I kind of explained to him what pretrial was. Again, just trying to establish a relationship with him and trying to get him to cooperate. And he had told me like a year later that all his interactions with law enforcement were always hostile. So it's a two-way street, right? In the sense is, from my law enforcement side, I always heard his interaction was hostile, and now he's telling me a year later that all his interaction was hostile as well. So we started to form a bond, which was very good. And sure enough, I had interactions with his stepfather as well that day. So I treated him with respect. I'm pitching him to try to cooperate with the government. He's seen in me, because he said it to me later, that he saw in me that he could have been me and that I could have been him. Not that I could have been him, but that's what he would say to me later. And sure enough, about a week later, I got a phone call from his lawyer that he wanted to cooperate. And I was totally stunned. So, as you always hear, you get more bees with honey. And that's what I did. I just treated him with respect. I showed him that there was another second chance for him. And I gave him an opportunity to trust me. And that's what happened. And about a week later, he called me to cooperate. And I almost fell off the chair when his lawyer called me. I immediately called the assistant from the Southern District, because that's where this case was out of. And just for the public's information, there's two districts in the lower part of Manhattan. There's a Southern District and there's the Eastern District. This case was out of the Southern District. And that's one of the things I try to do in the book, is kind of explain things about the witness security program, trials, trying to cooperate with the government as well. So that's how this case starts from my perspective.